Today's show brought to you by our friends at First Racing. Few things I want to let you know about. Most important is how you can watch. There are a lot of ways to do it. Coverage is going to be on CNBC from 4 to 6. You can also follow along on TVG all day long. But we're going to encourage you to check out our own In the Money feed that we're doing. We're going to be on from 3 to 5. Our friends from America's Best Racing are going to take over from 5 to 6. And then we're back from 6 to 7. You can follow that on the Gulfstream and Santa Anita social channels. Also, my social channel, @LoomsBoldly. I'm sure In the Money Media will be able to find it on there as well. We'd love to have you. We've got a bunch of guests, and the coverage is going to be great fun. Also, just want to give a little push to this $5 million lottery type bet. If you can pick the winners of all 15 races, you get one shot, one entry per person. If you get them all, you get a $5 million. And the person who gets the most winners is going to get a VIP Preakness trip. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. You can learn more about that. FirstSaturday.com is the landing page. 1st-saturday.com. You'll be able to find the free-to-play contest there, and it's open for entries already. You're going to hear a lot more about other great things on this first Saturday a little bit later in the show. Hello and welcome to a special edition of the In the Money Players podcast. This is our show for First Saturday, and it's a First Saturday takeover, folks. We've got 3 segments on the show, and in those 3 segments, we're going to cover all 15 of the stakes that you're going to be seeing on First Saturday between Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita. Quick reminder right up top, 2 of the segments are going to be on the all-turf coast-to-coast wager and also the coast-to-coast all-dirt wager. To wager on those events, you've got to pick a special area in your ADW. It's not going to be in the race like you normally go when you bet the exact or whatever. You've got to select a drop-down. 1 DN for the dirt races, 1 TN for the turf races if you want to play these bets. And I suggest you do with their incredibly friendly 12% takeout, and they're just a lot of fun and cool and the kind of thing that we like to support around here. Part of the reason why we're doing this special show. And we're going to get to our first guest right after this message. Today's show is also brought to you in part by our friends at Sam Houston Race Park. Make plans to head down to Houston for an NHC qualifier on March 26th at Sam Houston Race Park. $1,000 entry fee, and it's all bankroll. You get to keep what you have left. Tour points available. The top 2 finishers are going to get that all expense paid trip to the NHC in February of 2023. More details are available at shrp.com. You can also look for qualifiers to win your way in over at horsetourneys.com. Check it out, the website with all the details, shrp.com. First guest on today's show, a legendary horse player, a man I'm proud to call a friend, a handicapping champion, Paul Matties. What's going on, my man?
Well, I'm getting aggravated with this. This is like, for everybody listening behind the scenes, this is like take 10. I think the racing gods don't want us to give you these picks. I'm not sure why.
Our persistence is going to be rewarded when a bunch of them win.
I hope so.
Let's dive right into this all dirt, coast-to-coast wager. I know you're a fan. The low takeout, the high minimum, the Stronach 5 model. Essentially, you had given credit in the previously recorded bits that we're not going to use to your brother Duke for coming up with this idea, and you made the great point that it's so arbitrary in these sequences. Why does it have to be races 5 through 9? Why can't it be a selection of all top quality races with a surface? Maybe you're a turf handicapper, you focus on that. Maybe you're a dirt handicapper, you focus on that. We're going to talk about the all dirt pick 5, and it starts off with Santa Anita's 4th, the San Carlos. Who do you like in here, Paul?
I think this is a very difficult race for a sprint stake race at Santa Anita. Usually it's pretty straightforward in your handicapping. This is a good puzzle. I think it starts with the fact that if you think Brickyard Ride is going to be loose or not, and when he gets loose, in his last race, he even went a mile. When he gets loose, he's very tough. But in the past, when he's faced pressure, especially against the top-notch horses, he's wilted. So I think with 8 rings and the fact that Baffert has a few horses in the race, that they may go after him a little bit more. They may not be able to, but I think that's where your decisions have to start, at least. I think that's what's going to be the. I spent a lot of time on this race last night thinking that there was going to be a light bulb moment where I figured it all out, and I really didn't get there. So, but I do think that the key to the race is what you do with the horses out of the essential wager race, and that's Cezanne and Shoot or Shoot. And I'll start with Cezanne. Even though he's coming off, he had come off a layoff in his last race, which was 18 months, which I think a lot of people are going to use as an excuse because second off a layoff and that type of thing, he needed the race. And I don't usually like to do that with Baffert, and I really don't want to. So I think he might be overbet for that factor. However, the way the race is going to play, and just watching him run that day, you did get the feeling that he was a little rusty at the beginning of the race, and then at the end of the race, he kind of got it all together. He ran almost like a first-time starter, and which is unusual for Baffert. But it was a longer layoff than maybe even for him. So, and Shoot or Shoot is interesting in the fact that I think if 8 rings goes, and maybe Principe, Carlo, and maybe a couple others, if they go close enough to him, he may be able to slide into that good stalking spot at that happens at Santa Anita 7 furlong races. And the more I looked at him, the more I liked him. He's more off of, you got to trust his last race because he was claimed 2 starts back by Richard Baltus, and he ran this big race off the claim. And it was definitely his best race that he's ever run. On the other hand, I think he will be, even though he beat Cezanne last time, he will be less used. I think that people will want to go against him. So, but I think the way the race plays out, if you go with both of them, you kind of get some value. You probably lose a little value with Cezanne. You get a little value with Shoot or Shoot, and just hope that maybe the essential wager race is the race.
4 and 9 for Paul to kick off this all dirt pick. You're going to leave out Brickyard Ride entirely, it sounds like.
Well, no, I think it would. I would go on a primary with those 2.
Gotcha.
And then I think it's dangerous to just blow your whole pick 5 up. With Brickyard Ride and even 8 rings, probably use them as some kind of backups, but and then just narrow down in the other races, somewhere where your opinions are strong. But as far as going on my A level, I would go with those 2.
I don't have much to add. I did make Brickyard Ride the top selection, just on the thought that he might be the clear speed. Once again, you make a great point about Baffert team tactics, though, and that might make him a little tougher to trust Brickyard Ride at the price he's going to be. I also like Shoot or Shoot. Looked to improve off the claim, ran that big figure last time, despite not being earned under ideal conditions. I thought the trip was a little tricky. Not sure what kind of a setup Shoot or Shoot's going to get this time around, but this is a talented runner with some finish, and I definitely want some combinations with the 1 and the 9. Out of deference to you, Paul, definitely going to look to work in your idea on Cezanne. That was a very good note as well. Hopefully we get through this first leg and head it over to Gulfstream for the second race in this sequence. Race number 10, 440, the Grade 2 Gulfstream Park Mile. A couple different ways to look at this race. I was looking at the Hooper horses as the horses you wanted. I thought Speaker's Corner looked to have the best numbers and a possible pace edge, and I thought Fearless had a chance to turn the tables if the top one has to do too much early on. Fearless's middle move last time may have taken some of the starch out of his finish. Maybe he can improve. I definitely see the cases for those Safi Joseph runners, the 8 and the 6. Was thinking of maybe trying to sneak them onto some backup tickets where I could afford it, but I was mostly going to try to get out 3-4. How do you see this one, Paul?
Well, I think you got to the heart of this race. I actually think that this race is a little kind of dicey too, in the fact that I think New York Traffic is the best horse, but by all accounts he hasn't been working good. I don't know, how I didn't know how the public workout places are, but kind of the people in my circles have not liked the the workouts on New York Traffic. In fact, he's gotten outworked by Collaborate, I think maybe at least twice in recent weeks. So that scares me, because my off of form, I actually think New York Traffic is the horse to beat, but I don't like the fact that he hasn't been working as good. And I got no qualms with the Hooper horses. I think I think Fearless a little bit more than Speaker's Corner, and for no great reason except that he's more consistent. Speaker's Corner's been inconsistent to me. He runs these big races and then not. But like you make a good point. If he does get loose or out by himself, he definitely could. The only other horse I would mention is Endorsed, who's coming out of the Pegasus World Cup. And even though that wasn't a deep race, you know, he made a real good middle move against Life is Good and Nick's Go. And I've always thought he's a better one-turn horse. I think Miles probably been his distance. He's another one that's inconsistent. He runs these races where sometimes he puts in the big moves and other times he doesn't. But the more I looked at this race, the more I think he's the value of the race, Endorsed, even though he's coming out of the big race, which is probably not the norm. You know, usually people like to come out of the bigger races. I just like the positive cutback and the fact that that his last race was, I think, a return to his higher race, and he's got back numbers where he'll beat this field. You know, it's not like he's got to do it right for the first time. I mean, he's got the numbers there. So I'm definitely going to be a lot of Endorsed in the race as for sure. The other three, probably with the other three, I guess maybe, I don't know. I probably have to use all three of them because I think they're the four horses that can win.
Meaning 3, 4, and 8, and avoiding New York Traffic and including Collaborate instead. Well, is that what you were thinking, or
3, 4, 6? I actually don't think Collaborate is good enough. I probably, even though he's out working New York Traffic, and maybe you could go if you like Collaborate, then that's a positive. It's all. My father always talks about perceptions when you're handicapping. You know, my perception is New York Traffic, and he's working bad, and I didn't think Collaborate was good enough, so I kind of went negative on the Safi Joseph horses. If you want to go the other way and say, well, Collaborate must be just real sharp, he's beating New York Traffic, I could see that argument, but that's probably not where I go with my perception.
Gotcha. I'm going to write you down as the 7 as an A, with the 3, 4, and 6 more as backups in race number 10. That sound about right?
Yeah. That's right.
Let's head back out to Santa Anita, Paul, for some Triple Crown prep action at 5:30 in the San Felipe, and we'll keep it with you. What do you like?
Just a second. Let me get that right.
That's the one thing with the two tracks. It can take a minute to flip the PPs around.
Yeah. I was actually looking for somebody to put something together like they do that with the Cross Country 5 and the Stronach 5. Equibase and Trackmaster will put these things together for you so that you can put them all together, but the Coast to Coast is too new, I guess.
Already an idea for improvement, though. We'll take it.
I wasn't all that tricky in this race. I don't know. I'm curious to see what you think. I think it's the outside three horses as the contenders. Doppelganger, Forbidden Kingdom, and Cabo Spirit. I was trying to come up with which one I like the best and narrow it down. Probably in the pick 5, I probably will, on most tickets, just use all three and take this race as a lock 'em up type of race and just to get through it. If I may go a little bit with Doppelganger based on unless the track is the way the track is playing. I think pay attention early in as much as you can, because Forbidden Kingdom is definitely going to be loose. So if the track's playing the speed, in the pick 5 you might have a problem because you won't know necessarily if Brickyard Ride had won. But if the track is playing speed, his chances go up. I'm not convinced he's going to make it 2 turns, especially in mile and 16. but on a kind track, he probably can. So
I'm with you in terms of your view of the race. The outside runners look like the ones. I went ahead and put Forbidden Kingdom on top. Okay, Paul, let's move on to the next race in our all dirt pick 5 sequence. We head back to Gulfstream Park for more Triple Crown prep action in the Fountain of Youth. I thought Emmanuel looked like the one I wanted to make my top pick in this spot. All kinds of upside. I think wants to run this far. Horse has never been headed, but doesn't act like a need the lead type. Looking at his pace figures, I think he shapes like a horse who's going to appreciate more ground. Appears to be working forwardly as well. I'm also interested in the 9 High Oak on an angle. I've heard your brother Duke talk about many times. When you look at those horses that are in the really fast figures as a 2-year-old, and then they spend several months away, they come back. If you can build in some speed figure improvement for age, High Oak might be the fastest of all of these. I'm not sure if he's going to be ready off the bench. I'm not sure if he wants to go this far. But on the talent he's shown and the hands he's in, I want some High Oak on my tickets as well. I had the thought of throwing in the 4 and the 7 potentially as backups, but I was going to use the 8 and the 9 as A's in the Fountain of Youth. How do you see it?
I actually see it different, and I was surprised when I went to this race. I thought that I'd want the other horses. I think the way this race comes down is you want the 2 horses out of the Holy Bull, or do you want the horses out of the other races? And at first I thought, in the history, sometimes the Holy Bull becomes a weaker race than the Fountain of Youth, and the horses that do good right off the bat don't follow it up. And but the more I looked at all the other the newcomers per se, the more I found reasons why I didn't like them. So I changed my tune in this race while I was handicapping it, and we're going to have a different opinion here because I was just going to go with the 2 horses out of the Holy Bull race. Both of them didn't get great trips in the race. Simplification and Mo Donegal.
Oh, Paul, let me interrupt you to say that Mo Donegal spiked a fever and is going to be scratching. So he's not. He will not be playing here. I think that he's going to be rerouted to the Wood.
Oh, that'll change things a little bit. I guess probably that will change my strategy somewhat. Though I would definitely be more. I'd be top heavy with simplification, and then probably, and then maybe go with the backups. I do have to look at the race probably a little bit more without Mo Donegal being in there, but I still feel like simplification is going to be more reliable than all these other horses, and I had more negatives than positives. I do agree with your idea. I mean, when I looked at the race, I thought, I'm going to like a horse like High Oak most of the time. A 2-year-old, just like for all the points you were saying. Usually those type of horses come out and show some kind of improvement. But Saratoga especially was hit with the deck, So I'm not convinced on that race, the quality of him. And I could be wrong on that. It's hard to tell when, these 2 turn 3, you're guessing somewhat. He's been working at pace, and so I don't really have an edge. His workouts are okay, but nothing stands out about any of them just off the times of them. So he's running a different horse. Mott's running another horse in the race, which I didn't like. I said if this is going to be his big 3-year-old, he's going to run a different horse in the race with him. I know we're in a different world when it comes to that nowadays. These trainers they got all the horses. There's about six trainers that have all the horses, so you have to play a different game as a trainer. I still didn't like it. I mean, he can't find a different spot for that horse if he thinks that High Oak is gonna smoke in this race. So I don't know. The one horse that I did think that was a little different that's a little light on figures, but that I kind of liked was the AP Secret that you didn't mention either. AP Secret with Safi Joseph. I just even though his figures weren't there, I like the fact just visually how he's run. I'm a little worried he ran his last race with Lasix and now he's off of it. That's always a question mark in nowadays, in these things. So, but I think he'll be a price, and he has been working good. He's another one. He actually outworked New York Traffic too. We were talking about earlier. So, but that's a good sign, that I would look at that one as just being positive. Just the fact that he could stay with New York Traffic would be a good sign, So, so I would probably go something like simplification with AP Secret, High Oak, and Emmanuel.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting point about simplification and the race. That was a heck of a race in the Holy Bull. I mean, there's no doubt about it. A big run would be no surprise. I definitely do want to take another look at him. But let's move on to the pay leg here, Paul. The big cap, Santa Anita's 11th race. How are we going to get paid?
Unlike the Stronach 5, this is going to be a wait, right? Now that you're you'll be alive. Those guys, anybody, if you're alive for a lot of money, you'll be doing a lot of pacing. You got a lot of time, maybe a lot of drinking too. You can bet on ADWs now, so you don't get drunk and lose your tickets. You don't have to worry about that or anything. They keep track of everything for you.
It's a great point. It's very useful stuff.
I know guys that get alive in the pick 5 and they get so nervous they can't sit still. I think
it's going to be a couple hours to pace.
They actually like that feeling, which I don't understand completely, but they just like being alive. They don't even care if they win sometimes. Well, this race here is, the horse to beat is Express Train, obviously, I think, and I think you got to get creative to beat him. I don't have anything negative against him. I mean, you have to come up with something probably a little tricky. And I have just one horse that I'm going to use, and probably that's how I'm going to use. I don't know. I've talked about maybe you in this pick 5 stuff, where I take two horses and I use them differently in the race. Where one's long and one's short, and play. I might even play different combinations based off of it. And since it's the last race, it's for some reason I find it's no different, but I find it easier to do usually putting the tickets together. And that horse is American Theorem, who got drubbed by Express Train last time, but he's going to be long in here. And they definitely did the wrong thing with him. They tried to rate him, and just with the fact that Smith is going to ride him back, and I think he's smart enough to figure out that what he did last time was wrong. And the fact that they're going to give it another shot alone was enough positivity to me that if they send him and they get aggressive with him, which he likes, this horse likes to be aggressive, and he gets out on the lead, and I know that's, I don't know it, but I would guess that that's the way they're going to ride him. So I thought that he was the horse that maybe be the tricky one that could be him. I'm just going to draw a line for that last race. I thought they made the wrong ideas. He rode him poorly. Nothing went right, and I'm just going to throw that out. You can make the argument that was his race without LASIK. That's the one thing that I'm a little negative. This is the thing when all these people talk about these LASIK things, and they say, "Oh, it's no big deal. What difference does it make in their handicap?" Well, it just throws in this variable in now. Last time was his last race because of the LASIK. Was that the thing that affected him? And it's just an extra guess that you have to take into consideration, But at price, I'm willing to do it.
And your obvious horse, Express Train, I'm guessing?
Yeah, the obvious horse would be Express.
Yeah, clear form and figures edge for that one. I had to put him as the top pick because I also thought he was going to get a great trip. Just from presumably from just off the pace. I do like also the fact that Express Train showed more speed last time and still finished up well. I think that suggests this might still be a runner on the improve. He hasn't won at 10 furlongs, but I don't think you can hold that against him. He's run well at the distance, just 1 point off the career top on the Buyers going 10. So I thought he was right to have a lot of the money running through. I was going to use a little bit of Stiletto Boy who might not be seen to his best effect going this far, but I just thought that was a pretty nice race of the Pegasus, all things considered, showing big speed, re-rallying to hold third. This horse has just turned 4 and might not be done improving. So I was going to play at 6 and 8. Do you give Stiletto Boy any count in here?
I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't go there with the talking at the beginning because I just talking my strategy. I'm against Stiletto Boy in the race, distance-wise and trips. I know he ran good in the last race. I just think he's going to be the other alternative to Express Train. In fact, they'll probably be close in odds, and I just think he'll be way overbet, and there's way too many question marks on him. And for me, that's the one, I would go against him here. I think in this strategy, in this pick 5, even though I am a believer in taking the 2 horses when you think you can lock races up, I think this one, I think you should pick. I think you should go with one of the 2 that you like, because the way that's going to be bet out. I mean, both of the horses are going to be less than 2-1 probably.
Oh, at that price, I would be very much against Stiletto Boy. Handicapping this several days in advance, I was thinking he might sneak away. I was thinking he might sneak away at a little bit of a price. But if you're right about that, I'd take Express Train over him. Every day of the week.
I just think he's the other alternative, and everybody's just going to go there. It's like I guess Pratt's riding Warrant. Maybe he'll take a little money who's light in the figures and shipping out. But I just think that's going to be the prevailing thought with most everybody. You're just going to have to go there. I mean, the Baffert horse to Spielberg, I just couldn't come up with a reason to play him. He has never run a race this good, and I'm not looking for. It's positive that that's the horse that Baffert decides that he's going to run in the Santa Anita big cap. That's his entrant. I'm sure he could have dug something up. But he just seems like he's got to do something that he's never done. Pratt jumped off him. I just didn't think. I don't like the fact that he drew on the inside. There was just so many. It's a mile and a quarter. It's probably not that important, but I just thought that they might do something stupid because they drew through the inside. The more I looked at him, the more I didn't like him as an alternative. I just think that Express Train is clearly the horse to beat, and and I got a tricky one that maybe could get in the lead and beat him. That was the only.
Good stuff, Paul. Really appreciate you taking time out, fighting through the technological issues. We'll have you back on soon for a longer appearance where we can go a little bit deeper into some of these races. I know we really only scratched the surface, but such is life on a tight timetable. But we'll have you back on very soon.
It's unbelievable that these Saturdays, one thing I'm worried about racing is that on the day-to-day people like you and me, the racing is just so bad during the week. And then you realize why, because then when you see these cards like Gulfstream and Santa Anita, so everybody enjoy them.
That's the plan, my man. We'll be talking soon.
Thanks, Pete.
Want to remind folks that this Saturday is the Ultimate Betting Challenge. You're going to want to play in this if you're any kind of contest player. $3,500 buy-in, seats to all the major tournaments, and cash prizes as well for this great day of racing. 15 stakes. They're going to be coming fast and furious between Gulfstream and Santa Anita. This is a major contest you're definitely going to want to participate in. You can also, if you're listening to this early, win your way in. If the Friday racing hasn't started yet, there's a last chance qualifier at expressbet.com and also at horsetourneys.com. But definitely you're going to want to play in this, and you're going to want to follow along. We gave you that info earlier in the show. In the Money Media hosting our own little feed that will be covering the UBC. That's going to be starting at 3 o'clock on Saturday. You can find that at Looms Boldly, at In the Money Media, or through Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita social channels. Next up on the show, we have a man who is on the show every week. We usually kick things off with him. This week, we're going to kick off with Paul Matties and bring him in second. He's back from Saudi Arabia. He's looking well, coming from an undisclosed location in New England. He is TV's Matt Bernier. What's up, my man?
Looking forward to this weekend, Pete. I think we've got really good racing, stating the obvious, both the Gulfstream and Santa Anita. But, I can't, outside of a Derby or a Breeders' Cup or a Belmont Stakes Day, this is probably the most action-packed day of racing we'll have, or one that I can think of anyway, in recent memory. What about you?
I totally agree. I love the idea of these first Saturdays. I'm hoping the concept takes off and gets expanded next year. And I love the creativity in the wagering menu. And I get the sense that might just be the tip of the iceberg if this idea takes off. So we always say vote with your wagering dollar. Definitely encouraging folks to play all these races at Gulfstream and Santa Anita. And we particularly want to cover the stakes. We got Paul for the all dirt. We got Frank coming in later for the all turf. We sort of gave you you and me. We're going to look at the other races, the leftovers as it were. But there's still some interesting racing on tap.
And, to be fair, you and I are going to have plenty of time on Saturday afternoon to talk about any of the races that we won't talk about here in this spot. So, look, I think there are interesting races on both tracks, at both tracks, I should say. And maybe you've got some formful ones where it seems like the favorites are probably going to get the job done. But I think you can take a couple of shots in a few of these races.
I did mention it up top, but we'll mention it again here. We'll be broadcasting basically from 3 to 7. Follow us on our social channels and or Gulfstream Santa Anita social channels. You'll get to watch our broadcast. Lots of special guests lined up, and we're going to have a lot of fun along the way. We'll get into all the races in that time period. We will be handing off to our friends at ABR for the 2-3-year-old races. We'll get a nice little break in the middle, but definitely come and join us for that. Right now, though, let's talk about these races that are not in either of the interconnected picks, starting with race 3 at Gulfstream, the Canadian turf. I'm super uncreative here, Matt. I really felt like Never Surprised looked pretty close to a layup. Is it more complicated than that?
No, probably not. If I'm being honest, I think it's Never Surprised's race to lose. If he replicates the Pegasus World Cup, he gets the job done. Simple. If for whatever reason somebody tries to go with him early, softens him up a little bit, maybe the slight turn back in distance isn't to his liking, maybe you want to look for a horse like the 4. Mira Mission in here for Ian Wilkes, horse that's done nothing wrong at Gulfstream Park, a perfect 3 for 3 on the Gulfstream turf. The distance isn't an issue and comes out of a race that maybe at face value doesn't look spectacular. I thought the tape was really good, and the 4th place finisher came back to earn a 91 on synthetic in their next start. So I think it goes through Pletcher in here, but if for whatever reason Never Surprised stubs his toe, maybe Mira Mission, the 4, can get the job done.
Let's move on to race number 5, the also Gulfstream, the grade 3, the very one, another race where I had a strong, not terribly creative opinion, thinking that Virginia Joy was going to be awfully tough to beat. The one note I had about Virginia Joy that maybe wasn't immediately obvious is I do think this is the type of Chad Brown runner that can have success at Gulfstream. Sometimes his will underperform at Gulfstream. The quickening types trying to make up ground on Gulfstream's turf, not always easy. Virginia Joy will be more positively ridden here. Looks to be working gangbusters. I just didn't have much creative. How about you? Do you like Virginia Joy? And if not, where did you land?
Yeah, she's the most likely winner. Feels very much like the Canadian turf to me as far as Never Surprised is concerned. If Virginia Joy runs her best, I think she gets the job done. My opinion is I don't really want anyone out of the La Prévoyante or the Via Borghese. So, look, Virginia Joy fits that bill. If it's not her, if for whatever reason she doesn't pass the test, I've always been a fan of the horse down on the inside. Maybe she's not good enough. But Kelsey's Cross, I think she hasn't been allowed to do what I think she really wants to do. I think this added elongated distance is going to be to her benefit. Timeform US surprisingly has her very forwardly placed in this race. I figured she'd be more sort of 2 or 3 lengths off of it. But if she's forward in a race that I'm not sold on the quality of some of the other runners, I don't think she's the worst horse that's going to be a big, big price in here. Maybe she doesn't get the job done, but maybe you can hook her up with Virginia Joy.
So you've got it 5-1 to sum it up?
Yes.
Excellent. Let's talk about the grade 2 Devona Dale. Matt, this is a race where I liked the 2 Classy Edition, this New York bred for Todd Pletcher. Like the way that she's finished her races. I think she's a good candidate for the stretch out. I think it's interesting that Pletcher shows the confidence to put her in this spot. And then I was also interested in the 6 Cocktail Moments. If the pace goes too quick early on, if a late runner can get involved, I think she's one who could really benefit with the one runner. Another obvious candidate in that regard, but I was thinking Cocktail Moments would be a better price. I like it mostly 2-6 and a little bit the 1 mostly 2 and a little bit 6-1 is probably a more accurate way of expressing my opinion there. How do you see this one?
Yeah, Girl with the Dream deserves to be the favorite based on what she's done. I have written in my trip notes that I don't know that she'll route, and I know we're only going out to a 1-turn mile, but I'm not totally sold on her at a short price. You did allude to the horse I do like the most. That's Kathleen O, number 1, down on the inside. Admittedly, maybe a little bit of fool's gold because she beat a terrible, terrible field in that most recent start, that Cash Run Stakes back on January the 1st. But for a horse to be as poorly out of the gate as she was, she broke completely outward, got shuffled all the way back to the back of the pack to win at Gulfstream Park the way that she did, going a 1-turn mile. I think that speaks volumes about her potential. Now she's going to get an acid test. She'll need a little bit of pace in front of her, which Timeform US doesn't think she'll necessarily get. But based on the tape, I want to at least give her a chance, knowing that this is going to be the toughest test that she's going to face to date. I think she's a little intriguing in here at 9-2 on the morning line. I'm going to go with the 1 Kathleen O.
I like it. And any other numbers to list in your reckoning, or are you really all about Kathleen O?
No, she's really the one I was most taken by. I understand the logic for cocktail moments. I understand the thought even for the 4 outfoxed. I wanted to give her a little bit of a look. I thought that run in the Gasparilla was solid, a little bit more workmanlike for my liking, based on the tape anyway. And maybe she'll move forward second off the bench, but I just felt like a horse like Kathleen O had more upside maybe than a horse like Fox did. So it's really all about the 1 for me.
I'll admit, I was expecting, we handicap these races days in advance. I was expecting a shorter price on Kathleen O than what we're seeing. At that kind of number, I would upgrade. I mean, I want to keep her in my picks anyway, but at that number, if that ends up being correct, I'd move her up a bit just based on the talent that she's shown. Let's skip ahead to race number 11. It is the grade 2 MACD, 5:10 Eastern. Very curious to get your thoughts on this one, Matt. I thought it was an interesting puzzle. Where did you land?
Yeah, I was kind of Captain Obvious in here. I just think Aban is really good. I think that the longer distances suit him well, and I love the fact that he's a horse that you can put him right out on the engine if you want. You can have him sit off like he did in that most recent run in the McKnight and take over, basically get a 4 or 5 length head start on the deep closers and hopefully hold them off when it's all said and done. You're going to be looking at a very, very short price, so I don't even know that I'd necessarily be looking to back this one on the win end. But if you're playing multis, I think you have to be looking at a horse like Aban for Pletcher in here with Luis Saez aboard. I just thought the horse is really good and has kind of come into his own since they moved him over to the grass. So bit of Captain Obvious for me, but I think the best horse gets the best trip.
Yeah, you're probably right. I have Aban listed second in my picks. I put Temple on top based on the combo of speed and stamina. And I just thought the last race maybe a little better than it looked, rallying wide on a day. I thought it may have paid to be on the inside. The Aban point you already made very, very well. Not much to add other than I'm not going to get beat by Aban. And then I was going to throw Kygo in at what I'm hoping is going to be a price against the flow last time. The shorter distances have just looked a little sharp for this runner who might get a more positive grinding ride on the stretch out. That might play well in this spot. Did you have any others you wanted to mention besides Aban?
Well, I guess the only other one that I don't know that I like this horse for Saturday's race, but I do find Gloucestershire a little bit interesting on the far outside. The post is brutal for this race. The fact that this one ran on or came off the turf in that most recent start down at Gulfstream, I just think it's an interesting spot that they come here. I do wonder if perhaps when you get to New York, maybe a race at Belmont Park is where you're going to see this one flourish. But I'm just curious to see what we get from this one on Saturday, acknowledging I don't know that this is the right spot given the circumstances, but this horse is interesting to me long-term.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the post is what ultimately put me off including in this spot. But when everybody does that, sometimes they have a way of being a huge price. I'm going to go ahead and list Gloucestershire as a C in your picks and make a note that this might be one who's a little bit better suited for later. But at this point, I'd feel too irritated if the thing goes and wins. And we talked about it, but can't claim any kind of credit. So that's how I'm going to play that one for our plus people. And I should have mentioned this elsewhere in the show. I'll just mention it now. We're doing a free preview of In the Money Plus this weekend. Lots of extra content on these Gulfstream races, the Santa Anita races, and also I believe we might have some coverage written and maybe even podcast for Turfway for Dubai. Free trial, inthemoneypodcast.com/plus Full disclosure, the way Substack has it set up, you do have to pop a credit card number in there, but you can cancel within the 2-week window that you get. So if you just want to check it out for this weekend and then bail, go for it. But we're hoping you're going to check it out, like it, and stick around. inthemoneypodcast.com/free, the place to check that one out. Let's talk about this other race that we have. Race number 9 at Santa Anita, the Grade 1 Beholder. Matt, who do you like in here?
Pete, we can. I feel like I'm fair. It's a fantastic day of racing. We've got great stakes action left and right. This is about as bad a Grade 1 as I think I can remember. You've got 2 horses that have earned 90+ buyers in the race. You don't have anyone that really I look at and think of as sort of a proper Breeders' Cup distaff type. Maybe it's too early to really say that, but it's a rough looking group for a Grade 1. If I had any kind of a filly or mare that had any ability and I knew this is what the race could come up like, I probably would have shipped out. But having said that, you do have some talent in here. Don't get me wrong. As time goes by, is very fast. She makes all the sense in the world. I think they just have to be aggressive with her, send her to the front and say, come and catch me if you can. I guess Envoûtante coming in from the East Coast would be sort of her foil, her sort of the horse that she's going to need to beat, basically. I've never been the biggest fan of Envoûtante. I think she's fine and just fine. Having said that, the horse that I landed on, and really, it sounds silly because there's not much merit. I just find it very interesting that Varda is here for Baffert. And we haven't seen her in over a year. She didn't run particularly fast as a 2-year-old, but she's already a Grade 1 winner. She finished second in a Grade 2 in her second lifetime start. So it's not a matter of black type. We've already got the Grade 1 win. If she wasn't ready to go, why would you run her here? I think it's just a really curious position for her to come back in. Down on the inside's no bargain. She did beat a couple of decent horses in that Starlet a couple of years back. This is purely a speculative play for me, but I don't love as time goes by. I don't love Envoûtante. I don't think anybody else is particularly good as far as Grade 1 runners are concerned. Varda, to me, is the wild card. If all of a sudden she jumps up with a big effort, who's to say she can't at least get a piece of this thing, if not win outright? So I'm going to go with Varda in a race that, again, I think I've made it very clear. I think it's up for the grabs.
Good stuff. I think you make a compelling case for Varda and a good point about, maybe looking at some of that Grade 1 form in a Grade 1 race. It makes sense. I was less creative. I just thought as time goes by, this is a filly I tried to be a wise guy and beat last time. She stuffed me in a locker. Strong work tab since. Probable pace advantage. I'm not going to oppose her. If you made me use another, I'd throw in Envoûtante. Got good late in the 4-year-old year. Has the talent to beat this field if the top one falters. But I'm going to mostly have 3s on my tickets in the Grade 1 Beholder. Good stuff, Matt. I'm really looking forward to hanging out with you for a few hours on Saturday. And we'll go over a whole bunch of other of these races, everything in that 3 to 7 window. We'll make sure to talk about. We're going to have some fun special guests as well. Should be great.
Looking forward to it, buddy.
Peter Thomas Fornatal from In the Money Media here. We've been loving providing coverage of Sam Houston Race Park all meet long. We're going to do it through the end of the meet and the big contest. If you want more content regarding Sam Houston, check out our website. We've got a lot of it. inthemoneypodcast.com. Special shows, coverage of Saturday nights on our late week show. Whatever you're looking for, we've got it over at inthemoneypodcast.com. Please come and join us over there and keep the wagers rocking and rolling at Sam Houston Race Park. Next up on the show, very happy to bring in a man we've been trying to bring in for a minute now, and we finally got it done, and it's a pretty good occasion to do it for this very cool all-turf stakes pick 5 coast-to-coast bet. I know he will appreciate. You can read him every racing day over at santaanita.com under the handicapping area of their website. You've probably read a book that he's written at some point. He's Frank Scatoni. What's going on, my man?
Hey, Pete. Thanks for having me. It's always fun to do the show, especially on an occasion like this. Very excited about the races coming up this weekend.
We start off at Gulfstream Park, race number 7. It's the Palm Beach Stakes, going a mile. How are we going to light this candle, Frank?
Well, first, let me just start off by saying I absolutely love this wager, and hats off to Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita for putting together a low takeout player-friendly pick 5 with all turf races. I mean, if there isn't a tailor-made wager for a lot of us out there, I mean, this is it. So hats off to both racing offices for pulling this off and giving us something we can really, really sink our teeth into, especially with the $1 minimum. I find that, when you have a 50-cent minimum, you can get a little lazy, right? You just start throwing in horses and you don't have to I don't have to handicap that much. But when there's a $1 minimum, you're really, really forced to have a strong opinion. And fortunately, I have some strong opinions today. We'll see. If I'm right, I will get paid. If I'm wrong, well, on to the next one, right? As they say. So in this race,
It's always fresh.
Yes, there's always fresh, as our great friend William Murray used to say. I'm going to look at a horse who comes out of a common race, the Kitten's Joy. This horse did not finish as well as a couple of others in that race, but I expect this horse to improve leaps and bounds, and that's number 9, Red Danger. Thought there was a fair amount of speed in here. If you watch the replay of the last race, you'll see that Red Danger was off a little slowly. Leparoux kind of wrangled the horse back, angled the horse over, which I like, but if you're going to do that, you got to find the rail. He didn't find the rail. He raced 2 or 3 wide the whole time. The horse made a very, very strong middle move through slow splits and then flattened out while wide at 8.5 furlongs. Well, now the horse cuts back today. There's more pace in the race. And I just expect this horse to really, really move forward given the scenario. So I'm looking at number 9, Red Danger, to kick off the sequence and possibly a single A for me in this. If I can get off on the right foot, that will open up the other races if I can get out of here alive with a single A.
Love to be able to start with a single A or even a stone cold A. Do you have backups you want to mention at all?
Yeah, I do. I mean, the 2 who just beat Red Danger could run well again, but they got absolutely perfect trips last time and they still weren't good enough to win. That's Coinage and Royal Spirit. Of those 2, I prefer Royal Spirit. I thought that horse finished up better than Coinage. I think Coinage will be part of a quick early pace. So I would probably use Royal Spirit as a B, Coinage as a C, and then the other B I would use would be Credibility. It's another Mark Casse horse. He's got Credibility and Coinage. Credibility draws the rail, has a decent late kick, makes the second start of the form cycle, had a very good prep race in an off-the-turf affair here at Gulfstream, now gets back on turf, will save all the ground, and I think the pace will set it up for Credibility to run a good race. So that's those are the 4 horses I'm interested in using. I haven't seen the morning lines yet, so I don't know exactly where they are listing-wise, but I think I'm going to guess Royal Spirit is probably going to be the shortest of those 3, just based on that last race. I'm hoping Red Danger will be a little good bit of value because he did just finish 5th to those other ones. So
my numbers are similar. I did put Royal Spirit on top. I thought might be suited to the switch to Ortiz. The horse has shown tactical speed, but I thought could do better with more of a proper hold-up ride that I think Irad might be able to deliver. Just very obvious on figures and form. And I was with you on Red Danger being the interesting horse, not too far behind the top one. Could have more pace to run into this time. Has natural finish, and Leparoux, not a bad guy to have on side in a race where you suspect the pace might come back. Mostly 6 and 9 for me. Frank has it graded out with the 9 as an A, the 6 and 1 as Bs, and the 2 as a C. Just a reminder, you get little digests of all the picks from the shows if you're an In the Money Plus subscriber, and we've got that free trial going on this weekend, inthemoneypodcast.com/free if you want to check that out. Let's move on to Gulfstream Park's 9th race, the Grade 3 Honey Fox. This is a spot where I was going to try to be a little bit spready. I thought Alms was very interesting situationally, plenty of pace, and I think she can just sit off of it and finish best of all potentially under Rosario. By partisanship as a runner I backed last time at a big price, might have even been too close to the pace still that time. Maybe a real proper from the back of the pack ride. Paco hopefully doesn't have her too close this time. I think my partisanship is interesting. Again, we cap these without morning lines, but I think this is a horse that should be a pretty decent price once again. And then in Italian, I felt like had to be used based on the quicken that she's shown in her races. That's the kind of quicken that wouldn't be out of place in a grade 1 potentially. The final times aren't quite at that level, but this is a horse I think I want to keep on side. I only didn't list higher because I think will be very bet in the spot. But I liked it 7, 5, and 9. Super curious to get your thoughts, Frank.
Well, it's funny you mentioned in Italian because I looked really, really long and hard at that horse. Obviously, Chad Brown, Arad Ortiz, and those last 2 races are really good. But I remember there was this might have been last year or 2 years ago, we were talking about one of the Breeders' Cup races, and there was a Chad Brown horse I liked who had races at Tampa. And you go, Chad doesn't really have his good ones at Tampa. So I was thinking, okay, well, maybe this isn't one of his good ones. But that horse definitely figures. But I was actually looking at another horse who comes out of the common filly and mare turf race that you mentioned about by partisanship, who I also like. But of the horses out of that race, I like Gift's List, number 6. If Leparoux has a good day, I'm going to have a good day. You go back and watch this race. This horse was coming off a June layoff, and I just thought was really keen. This horse was really keen. I think Leparoux had to struggle a little bit with the horse early on in the race. She ended up sitting 3rd, but never really looked fully comfortable to me. And she ended up running on well in the lane, but was a short horse, was too close to the pace. Just a lot of things that you can make excuses for. I expect this guy, this girl to run much better today, second off the bench with a little bit of a more comfortable trip. The other one, I mean, you mentioned Alms and bipartisanship. Again, I'm using both of them because they come out of that same race, and I agree with everything you said. Alms is going to get a perfect forwardly placed trip, and I think the switch to Rosario is actually really, really good. And I think bipartisanship will make a strong late run. She didn't have the best of trips in that filly and mare turf race anyway, so I'm not surprised she didn't kick on the way I was expecting her to as well. So I will use those, but don't overlook number 8 Wakanaka either. She also comes out of that race. She just kind of saved ground and ran evenly around the track. In retrospect, I look at that and say, you know what? I really think they were giving her a race, right? It was her first start in the country. It was at 8.5 furlongs. If you look at this horse's Euro form, I know it's Italian form, which isn't always the greatest, but this horse is better at a mile or shorter. So I think 8.5 furlongs was just a little too far for her. I think they were just giving her a race. She just ran evenly. I think she's going to improve big time in this race. I don't know if she's good enough to beat the other ones we talked about, but the fact that Jose Ortiz gets on makes me very intrigued at this horse, who should be also a big number. So my A's are going to be Gift Ice and Wakanaka as just a crazy one. And then I'm also going to use your horses, but I'm going to have them slotted as B's.
6 and 8 on the A line, 5 and 7 as backups. Did I get that right?
5 and 7. Yes, but I'm going to throw in I'll throw in your in Italian. I trust you with Chad Brown runners. So
yeah, my opinion has evolved about that Tampa Chad issue for sure. Like having heard him talk more about it, I think him, like a lot of trainers, they love that Tampa turf course, and they will send the good ones over there. So I may have thought that years ago, but I as the politicians would say, my opinion has evolved.
You reserve the right to change your opinion anytime in this game. That's what horse racing is all about.
That's 100% right. Let's move on to Santa Anita, race number 5, the Buena Vista. Let's get your thoughts on this one, Frank. Who do you think is going to win?
Wait, before we move on to that real quickly, what did you make of Jouster in the previous race? I know that horse is super talented, but you think she's just going to be part of a quick pace? Because I think she's going to take some money.
Yeah, I didn't like.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I didn't like it all, because when you've got a filly that looks to need the lead and you've got 3 others on pace figures that are faster than her, I just think it's going to be a bad situation. Now, she's talented enough if something unexpected happens, but the 4 is supposed to have more early speed. The 10 is supposed to have more early speed, and the 11 is supposed to have more early speed. So I was hoping they were going to do their thing. Alms was going to sit just off, and then with that Rosario finish, that's how I saw it playing out in my brain.
Yeah, we see it very similar. I was just curious because I think Jouster will take some money based on her back class, but I agree the pace doesn't really set up for her. But yeah, sorry. So we're talking about the Buena Vista now, or the
Let's head out to the Buena Vista, my friend.
is that where you okay? So here, my home track.
Isn't that the next one in the sequence?
Yes, it is. I just wasn't sure if you wanted to stick with the Gulfstream races, but yes, let's go to the Buena Vista, my home track. I can tell you one thing for sure. Number 5, Legs Galore, will be in front turning for home. And then it's just a matter of whether or not someone runs her down. She does have a win at a mile, but, I think it's pretty obvious that her best work comes sprinting. So I'm going to look for someone to come run her down. I'm looking for a couple of closers in this race. I'm going to be a little spready. Before I talk about the closers that I like, let me also just mention the other horse who's going to take money in there, number 10, Going to Vegas. You definitely have to consider the horse, and I will probably use Going to Vegas as a B. She's a grade 1 winner. Pratt shows up to ride. But my knock on her is that she's been attending slower paces in longer races. So she's had perfect trips in all of those races. She's now drawn all the way outside. It's going to be a much faster pace. She's shortening up. I'm not sure if she's going to have as much starch late as she has shown in her longer races. So I will use her, but I will use her as a secondary contender. My top contenders are going to be, like I said, the 3 closers, and in no particular order. That's number 1, Closing Remarks. She's a cool Calbred. She's got a solid stretch run, and if not for her nemesis Going Global, she'd have a few stakes wins under her belt. So she's not a bad horse at all. She's making the 3rd start of a form cycle. She's cutting back a furlong after a dominating win going longer. She'll be super fit. She'll save ground. She'll be running on late. That's one of them. If I like Closing Remarks, then I have to like number 4, Madone. I think I'm saying that right. I think that's how Miramati pronounces the horse. Madone.
Madone.
Madone. That's what I was thinking. Is that Madone? So yes, Maron, she beat Closing Remarks a few times last year. There was a time when I really thought that she was a superstar. I mean, early in her career, she showed an amazing turn of foot, and I'm like, this is a legitimate racehorse. Now, you can look at her form and say, okay, well, maybe she hasn't really trained on all that well, but I can kind of make excuses for her races. Last time she had absolutely no pace to close into and just kind of ran around evenly. She will get a pace to close into today with Legs Galore in the race. She's making the 2nd start of a form cycle, and I just think if she can recapture some of her old form, she could be very, very tough in here. And then the other closer I'm looking at is Avenue de France, who just beat a couple of these in the last race. She came home really, really nicely with 0 pace in that race. So to me, that's a horse who's going to get a lot out of that race and will improve with a faster pace today. I'm not the craziest about her jockey. I don't think he's a very particularly strong finisher, so that might compromise her chances. But I think she's a nice horse who should run a good one today. So I'm going to use, if I have to map it all out, but I would use those 3 as A's, and then Going to Vegas and Legs Galore as B's.
Give me the numbers on those for my little summary, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Closing Remarks is the 1, Maron is the 4, and Avenue de France is the 7. So those would be my A's, and then the B's would be 5, Legs Galore, and 10, Going to Vegas.
All right, good stuff. A spready approach, but you can get away with that in a pick 5. I thought there was a world in which Legs Galore is actually getting better. I like the fact that she sped up throughout the last day, and I was thinking that was just going to be a tough advantage to deny. Now, we'll wait and see. If there's still moisture in the turf course, that might not help a front-running attempt in a race like this, but I was going to make Legs Galore an A, and then the 7, Madone, I thought, looked to be the best closer. A few other things to like, a flow upgrade, 2nd start off the bench, all the stuff that you were noting, plenty of pace here. I'm not sure any of these are going to be able to match her late kick if stamina comes into play. So I was going to take the old best speed, best closer approach and hope for the best. But you make some compelling cases about some of the other ones as well. We'll see how it plays out. Let's zip back to Gulfstream, though, for the Here Comes the Bride stakes. This is a race spoke about on the Gulfstream Park show with Double D. I'll quickly summarize my thoughts. I thought Spenderella looked really good, the 4 for our pals at Gainesway. A good combination of handy type speed and a good kick from a good female family, supposed to train on for Grand Motion. And then the 8 Opalina, solid figures in form, consistent, and if experience can sometimes be underrated in a spot like this. I'm going to go 4-8. I think you can get very spready with the backups. I haven't finalized what I'm going to do there. I'm mostly about the 4 and the 8 in Here Comes the Bride. What do you think is going to win, my friend?
Yeah, well, it sounds like this could be the key to the sequence, because we have differing opinions here, and I'm sure a lot of other players will have their own opinions as well. I don't dislike the horses you mentioned, but I'm going to end up using the 2 and the 3 as my A's. Number 2, Mischievous Kiss. I think she's going to get a good inside tracking trip. I expect her to be ready off the November layoff. She makes her 3-year-old debut for a trainer who's excellent with these types of comebackers. Last year, she won 2 races, including a stakes. She hit the board in her other 2, despite very wide journeys. So to me, that tells me there's a little bit of class there. I think she's very talented. Don't think we've seen the best of her. So I'm very, very curious to see how she's going to do today. I also think a lot of this is really going to come down to pace and trip, right? It's a big full field. You have lightly raced horses who are probably still trying to figure out their running style a little bit. So we're going to need a little luck in terms of just how this race plays out. But I do think Mischievous Kiss will get a good tracking trip in here. And the other one I'd use as an A is number 3, Diamond Wow. I mean, clearly that last race off the October layoff was just a prep, right? She chased the pace and weakened in a 7-furlong dirt race. She now adds blinkers. She's stretching out. She gets back on turf. She will get a good forwardly placed trip. Last year, she was a head away from winning the Jessamine at Keeneland, despite breaking from the 13 hole. She has that race to build on, and I think any move forward will make her a major threat today. Especially, like I said, she will be forwardly placed, and I don't see a lot of pace in this race. I mean, like I said, there are lightly raced horses who could, change their running style or whatever, but I just think Diamond Wow will be in a very, very good spot turning for home. And then the other horse I like in here is number 12, La Marina. I would have made her an A if she were drawn better, but because of that post, I'm going to make her a B. I think she's a nice horse. She won a stakes race over this course last year. She's in good hands with Clement, knows how to get them to fire off this kind of layoff. Rosario is going to have a big day. She's also versatile, so she can angle over, get a good spot. But I'm a little worried about that post. So my A's would be the 2 and the 3, with the 12 as a B, and I might have to throw your 2 horses in as well as B contenders. But that's how I see the race.
Yeah, you make very compelling cases, especially about Diamond Wow. Makes an awful lot of sense. I think I was thinking the trip could be tricky, but you're right. It really does look like the best speed, and that's something that's always a good idea to keep on side. And the thing about the bad post for Leah Marina is you'll probably get compensated in terms of the price. So
sure.
I mentioned you could get spready with backups. I'm definitely going to throw in the 2, 3, and the 12 in that regard. Let's move on to the final race in the sequence here. We've got the Kilrow Mile, Grade 1 action at Santa Anita, 7:30 Eastern for this one. Frank, how are we going to get paid in this coast-to-coast all-turf pick 5?
Well, I kind of see this as a 3-horse race. I'll talk about 2 local horses first. That's the 2 horses who come out of the Thunder Road. Number 4, Count Again, just missed in this race last year, closing resolutely to finish 3rd. He's coming off a 2-month layoff back then. Well, this year he's coming into this race much fresher. Good victory in the Thunder Road. He came home in freakishly fast time, despite having no pace at all to close into. He just kind of ran down Subconscious pretty easily. He'll have plenty of pace to run at today. And this 7-year-old shows no signs of slowing down. And I don't see any reason why I wouldn't use this horse again. I've always liked this horse. So you can expect that one to be flying late. The other local horse I would consider is Subconscious, who did just lose to Count Again, but he was 3-5 in the Thunder Road. Like, they bet this horse off the board, which I was a little surprised at. But was off a little slowly, stumbled at the start, ended up being forwardly placed. And if you go back and watch the race, it's quite possible that he was just a little bit of a short horse. He was in a really good spot turning for home. The jockey was just kind of sitting there. At one point, I thought he was going to quicken and win. But then when the jock shook him up, he started to lug in a little bit, get a little tired, and Count Again just ran right by him. Subconscious will be much tighter off that. Believe me, I'm sure Mandela was using the Thunder Road as a prep for this. Good tactical speed, will get a good trip. And I think that horse will definitely improve. But the horse I like the best, actually, if you want to do the old A+ routine, I'd make number 8 Space Traveler my A+. This horse has a serious stretch run and will get a pace to close into today. He's run some big races, and even though he hasn't won yet here in the States, I think he's been very unlucky. Last time ran a very good third in the Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational, but had plenty of trouble. Early on, he steadied a few times, was shuffled back. Then he had to wait for room turning for home. And then he finished up willingly, but it wasn't enough. I don't know. I expect this horse to run a really, really big race. And the fact that they shipped the horse out here and, Spencer, the European jock, is named to ride, rode him last time in Gulfstream. There's a lot to like about this horse. And I'm hoping you'll get a good price on him. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the morning lines, but that could also be a pretty good win bet for me on this card.
We see it exactly the same. I really, really like Space Traveler. That was an absolute horror trip last time. This is a grade 1 caliber horse. Plenty of pace, great closing kick. The cut back to the mile should suit. Spencer worries me around USA tracks. I mean, he's such a great finishing rider, but he's a great finishing rider on a big, wide course where you don't have to go around a bend. And he gets horses into trouble in the States. I'm sorry, but it's kind of true. But I'm hoping that ratio-wise, it's not going to matter.
I was going to say he's odds on to get disqualified, right? I mean, it's like if this were Arlington Park, he'd probably end up fouling another horse and getting disqualified. So, no, I know exactly what you mean, but I do like the fact that he bothers. You know what I mean? Like I feel like he probably thought he would have won that race last time, and now he's like, that's it. Grade 1, California, I'm going to do it. So,
yeah,
that horse will fire big.
I'm with you. I'm totally in the camp of Space Traveler, and I thought you made good cases on the horses I wanted to back up with. I was going to throw Law Professor in there as well. Maybe that's just me being a card-carrying member of the Mike McCarthy fan club, but I do think that horses that can run on turf, that are tough enough to be competitive on dirt, I do sometimes give them an edge in spots like this. 8 Space Travelers, my only A. I was going to back it up to 2, 4, and 6, and it sounds like you've got this race 8, 4, 2.
8, 4, 2. Yes. Law Professor is a really nice. Just to talk a little bit about Law Professor for a second. Very, very nice horse. A 4-year-old in the ascendancy. Right. This horse is really put it together and keeps improving every race. So it wouldn't shock me if Law Professor won, just being super versatile, like you said, turf, dirt, has a little bit of tactical speed. But I have that one more as a C contender if I'm going that deep in this race, which I probably won't be. The other horse I was looking at was Tell Your Daddy. The horse has run some monster races and is certainly good enough to win on the best day. My only knock was that might be a little too close to a fast pace. So I was taking that into consideration, and I was looking for someone who, like Space Traveler or Count Again, who was going to be finished strongly. But again, it wouldn't shock me if Tell Your Daddy ran a big one with Johnny V sticking around for Thomas Morley, who bothers to ship out here. So it's a good race. It's going to be a very exciting race. But yes, most of my action will be going through Space Traveler.
I'm going to go ahead. Is it sort of like Space Traveler as an A, the 4 and the 2 as Bs, and the 7 as a C? Or is it more of the A+A situation?
No, I would make Space Traveler an A because I really feel like I want to be, that's one of my strongest opinions. So I want the majority of my action to be going through Space Traveler. So I think if I can get my single home in the first leg, single A home in the first leg, and my single A home in the last leg, that gives me some freedom to spread a little bit in the other legs. So so I would make those other ones Bs, and Tell Your Daddy a C. I'm not sure if I'm going to play the C line ticket. I got to map it out and see what it costs and whatnot.
Sure.
Like I said, with the dollar minimum, I want to be super targeted, and I feel really good about the sequence because, doing the pick four analysis day in and day out, you're forced with a lot of races that you really don't have strong opinions on. But these are quality horses. I feel like with the big full fields, we're going to get honest paces, and the best horse with the best trip is going to win. So I feel like I need to make a stand and really sink my teeth into it and back my strong opinions accordingly.
I like that plan, my friend, and I think that we have a good chance to win together. Enough similarity and enough spots where we're different to make it interesting. It's kind of the perfect blend when you do a podcast. Good stuff. Godspeed, and we'll be talking soon.
Thanks a lot, Pete. Talk to you later.
That's going to do it for this special edition of the show. I want to thank Frank Scatoni, Matt Bernier, and Paul Matties for dropping by, going over these races. Thank our friends at First Racing, Aiden Butler, Peter Rotundo, chief among them. Love this first Saturday idea. And we're so happy here at In the Money Media to be a part of it. Who else should we thank? How about our founding partners? 10 Strike Racing. We always love to root for the purple and black around here. And also the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. You can give to them. What a great cause, helping humans, helping horses. trfinc.org/players. Most of all, though, I want to thank all of you, the listeners, for making these shows so much fun to do. The viewers, too. Maybe you've been watching this on YouTube. I don't want to forget the viewers. The viewers and the listeners. It really makes it a lot of fun to be able to provide this content for you and to hear the feedback from you as well. Hit us up with any questions you have at Looms Boldly on Twitter. The contact page through inthemoneypodcast.com. That's another way to get messages to us. This show has been a production of In the Money Media. Want to give special thanks to producer Craig. I made him work hard today. We'll also note that our business manager is Drew Coatney. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kitchen. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatow. May you win all your photos.